She was never supposed to be in that room. A child, the daughter of a maid, standing at the edge of a deal worth $500 million. Powerful men in tailored suits laughed, pens ready to sign, certain no one could challenge them. But in a world built on silence and prejudice, she saw what others refused to see, an ugly truth hidden beneath polished smiles. One voice, trembling but unbroken, threatened to unravel everything. How could a single child shatter the plans of the powerful, and what did her courage reveal about the world we live in today? It was supposed to be just another day. The maid's daughter had grown used to living in the shadows, her world shaped by polished marble floors she would never own and glittering chandeliers that were never meant to shine for her. She followed her mother into the grand halls where power moved in whispers and deals were sealed with handshakes she was never invited to understand. To most, she was invisible, a child in a pressed uniform, quiet, polite, expected to stay out of the way, but she noticed things others ignored. The hushed conversations behind closed doors, the way men in expensive suits exchanged glances that carried more than words. And on this day, the stakes had never been higher. A contract worth $500 million lay on the table, gleaming with promise for some, ruin for others. Her mother had warned her to keep her eyes down, to stay silent. But silence had always been the rule forced upon her kind. In that room, she saw the divide as clearly as ever. The men in power, confident in their dominance, and the woman who cleaned up after them, treated as if she belonged to another world. She had grown up watching her mother's dignity chipped away, not by a single insult, but by the quiet, constant reminder that they were less. And now, as the pens were uncapped and hands hovered above the dotted lines, she realized something no one else dared to see. The moment was approaching fast, and this time she would not stay silent. The room was heavy with tension, though only one person seemed to feel it. The men at the table smiled with the confidence of those who had never been questioned, their pens gleaming above the paper that promised them unimaginable wealth. The girl's mother stood at the wall, hands folded, eyes lowered, silent as always. But her daughter's gaze darted across the table, and what she saw made her blood run cold. Numbers didn't match. Clauses were twisted in ways that could strip entire communities of their land and rights. Hidden beneath elegant legal language was something ugly, something designed to deceive. And the men knew it. She could see it in their eyes, in the way they avoided looking directly at one another, in the faint smirk on the face of the man in the dark suit who believed no one would ever dare call him out. This wasn't just a deal. It was a trap, crafted to exploit those who trusted without question. And the ones who would suffer most were the people who had the least. Her people. People like her mother. Her heart pounded. She wanted to speak, but the weight of the room pressed down on her like a stone. These were powerful men who saw her as nothing more than a servant's child. If she said a word, they would laugh, dismiss her, maybe worse. But every second of silence was another step closer to disaster. One of the men leaned back, chuckling as if the outcome was already written. Another tapped his pen impatiently, ready to sign. She could almost hear the sound of the ink hitting the paper, the moment history would seal itself against justice. And then, her mother's eyes flicked up just for a second. Tired, resigned, but pleading without words. Don't. It was the look of someone who had spent a lifetime swallowing truth, because truth had never protected them. But the girl was young, unbroken, not yet conditioned to accept the lies of the powerful. And in that instant she made her choice. Her small voice cut through the room like a blade. Every head turned. The man in the blue robe froze, pen hovering. The man in the suit stiffened, color draining from his face. Guards shifted at the door. She pointed, finger steady despite the tremor in her chest, and revealed what none of them expected, the deception they thought hidden. For a moment, silence swallowed the room. The weight of centuries of power, money, and privilege pressed back against the trembling words of a child. But silence was fragile, and once broken, it could not be restored, because now the truth was out. And no one in that room would ever see her the same again. The air cracked with tension. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the storm erupted. The man in the dark suit slammed his hand on the table, his voice sharp, demanding silence. Guards shifted forward, their presence looming like shadows ready to swallow the girl whole. Her mother gasped, stepping forward instinctively before freezing. Years of servitude had taught her the danger of even that small act of defiance. The girl's words hung in the air, undeniable. She had spoken the truth, but truth was dangerous here. The men's eyes turned hard, filled not with shame but fury. Fury that someone so small, so powerless in their eyes, had dared to expose them. One of them leaned forward, face red, spitting venom in every syllable as he tried to discredit her. "She's just a child. A servant's child." The words landed heavy, meant to erase her worth in an instant. It was racism wrapped in arrogance, centuries of oppression condensed into a single sentence. The room bristled with agreement. After all, who would believe her? But the man in the blue robe hesitated. His pen hovered, his eyes darting between the trembling girl and the sweating businessman. The trap that had been so carefully laid now shimmered with cracks. The girl's chest tightened, but she did not look away. Her voice, though shaking, carried the weight of generations silenced before her. She repeated what she had seen, pointed to the very lines of deception hidden in the contract. The evidence was undeniable, written in black and white, and then, in a single motion, the pen dropped from the blue-robed man's hand. It clattered against the table like a gunshot, shattering the illusion of control. Gasps filled the room. The deal was broken, but in the eyes of the men she had exposed, something darker replaced their greed, vengeance. The real battle was only beginning. The room eventually emptied, but the echo of that moment would never fade. The deal was gone, the signatures withheld, the deception exposed. Yet for the girl and her mother, the story did not end in celebration. The men she had confronted left with rage burning in their eyes, a silent warning that truth always comes with a price. Her mother clutched her hand tightly, not with anger, but with fear. Fear of what might follow for daring to speak when silence was expected. Still, something had shifted. The girl had seen that power was not invincible, that even the mightiest could falter when confronted with courage. She had reminded everyone in that gilded room that injustice survives only when it is ignored. This wasn't just her story. It was the story of countless others. For every deal broken, how many others are signed in silence? For every child brave enough to speak, how many voices are crushed before they are heard? Her defiance was a spark. And sparks, though small, can set fire to entire empires of lies. The truth is uncomfortable. It is dangerous. And yet, without it, the world remains trapped in the same cycle of inequality and silence. So ask yourself, when the moment comes, when you see injustice written in plain sight, will you look away like so many do, or will you dare, like her, to speak? Because sometimes it takes just one voice to shatter the deception.